Welcome to part 2, and yeah, Estelle just revived a giant tree. How did that happen? Anyway, the barrier is back up at least. However, we see that Zoggy and the red-eyed assassins are in town, so we need to leave. The mayor asks us to drop by his place so he can reward us, but Yuri and Estelle turn down the reward and just settle for being treated to a proper showing of the tree blossoms next time it happens. Otherwise, we learn that the place Flynn went to was Ospio, the city of scholars that Mordio was supposed to be from. Apparently, this is an imperial facility within some mountains that normal people aren't allowed in without a passport, which you don't have. At least you know Flynn is here, or might still be here, and now you just need to find a way inside. There's a locked door on the left-hand side, which Carol is able to open. And Estelle just doesn't like where this is going.
Oh, that's bad. We should just wait here for Flynn.
I don't have the patience to wait for Flynn to just happen to walk out of this town by chance. It was unquestioning obedience to laws and authority in times like this that made me quit the Imperial Knights in the first place.
On one hand, he's got a point about the way the Empire works and what this will mean for the citizens later on in the game. But on the other hand, you're still breaking and entering like you're a vigilante. Oh, and just before approaching the door, there was this thing. If you talk to it, it summons the Wonder Chef. Like in Symphonia, he likes to hide in several locations as weird objects, and will give you a recipe for free, so definitely seek him out. So apparently people in this city are a little afraid of this Mordio guy who lives in a shack all by themselves. You head over to find it a mess, and eventually you find them in a pile of books.
Shut up.
Huh? Hey, hold on!
Thieves?
No, what are you... Wait!
Be gone!
Help! Why me?
I think Mordio might be a bit of a hothead. Meet our next main character, Rita Mordio. She's a famed mage living in this city for her research on Blastia, minus her obsession of it, of course. And after Yuri accuses her of being in Zaphias and stealing their Blastia core, she tells them it wasn't her, but she might know where the thief might actually be. She brings up how there were thieves in the nearby ruins, and she even offers to take them there in order to clear her name. Before you do go, it's best to go up to her living space to get the Omnipotent Collector's Book, which self-updates apparently, and also... And thus, Estelle's innocence was lost. So Rita is a straight-up caster, as she holds the most magic guards out of any character, though she can use some strike guards if necessary, as she uses scarves and whips as weapons, while having books as her sub-item. Rita is pretty fun, especially once you start getting skills that decrease the amount of time needed to cast spells, which can result in her reducing her chance to just...
Blah blah blah! Blah blah blah!
So arriving at the Shaikos ruins, we see evidence of people being here, but no one actually is here. We soon discover a statue with skid marks on the ground, suggesting that someone found the underground passageway that only a few people are supposed to know about.
What are you looking at?
I was just surprised. You're actually a nice person.
I knew it would be a pain to bring you along. I should have just come by myself. Do you always come to research these ruins alone? Yeah. Aren't you afraid you'll get hurt by monsters or traps? There are always risks if you're trying to actually do something. If someone gets hurt, it's an acceptable loss. Even if you're the one who gets hurt? Yeah.
God, I love Rita. So here we get introduced to the Sorcerer's Ring, which is another staple in Tales games, which can fire off bolts of air to activate certain objects or do other things needed for puzzle solving. In this dungeon's case, you activate the Blastia to raise the platforms. You can also stun enemies temporarily, so you can either go around them, or if you manage to make them dizzy, gain a first strike advantage. Oh, and from now on, if an enemy touches you from behind, your party will be reshuffled and pushed out of position. While the ring is useful, sometimes you may miss because of how you might be facing, if an enemy is too low to the ground, or if they're in the air, and they can sneak up from behind you when they're coming after you. Otherwise, it's a good tool that takes getting used to. So eventually we reach the end of the ruins, where we see a large golem whose Blastia core is missing. As established, while Blastia can be made, cores have to be excavated. So it's good world building on what makes this all valuable, and why people like Rita obsess in trying to improve the technology. Also, the supposed thief shows up and activates the golem, which knocks Rita aside, and so Estelle does her healing arts on her. And like Yuri, Rita seems to know something about Estelle. After beating the golem, which depending on whether or not you're going for the secret mission is either easy or hard, we soon catch up to the thief, who tells us that he didn't steal the aqua core we were after, but someone else did, and their client is in Torum Harbor. With that in mind, Rita decides to accompany us since she seems interested in Estelle, and we backtrack to Halure to check on the tree in case Flynn is there. Of course, he isn't, but he left us a letter. A letter containing a crappy wanted poster of Yuri, because that's another tradition it seems, and information saying he went to Nor Harbor and to watch out for assassins, meaning he's aware of what's going on after all.
Looks like we have some dangerous people after us now. What are you gonna do?
Well,
I'm going to go to Nor Harbor. I could pass on a message for you if you want.
but
Part of Estelle's development is she can't always decide for herself since it might not be the right thing to do. It does come up a lot, and in part 3, we'll see the most of what comes of Estelle needing to take this journey, since right now she keeps refusing to go back even when LeBlanc and crew arrive. As you fight the two Tweedledums, you learn the overlimit mechanic, which is represented by this bar on the left side of the screen, where as you do damage or take damage, the bar will fill up. Once it gets full, you press a direction on the D-pad to activate it. At this point, the only good overlimit will do, besides knock back nearby enemies, is you can keep attacking indefinitely for as long as the overlimit is active. You can later synthesize items that upgrade it to as high as level 4, allowing you to attack downed enemies, have arts cost no TP, and lastly become invincible. Otherwise, you can also combo your arts more easily, and your magic arts will activate without needing a long cast time. This is the best way to build up your art usage, since there's a reason why you will need to use some of your arts a large number of times. Once all that's done, we head to Emid Hill, since going through there will get us to the harbor. Here we learn there was a barrier Blastia here, for some reason, which is odd to the others, and that someone riding a dragon destroyed it. Since the road is blocked, we have to go through the woods anyway, to avoid the guards as well, and we end up fighting a large monster that attacked Halure earlier. This thing is a pain in the ass, mostly because unless you went back to heal in town, even though back in the ruins there were save points that restore all your health and TP, you won't be adequately prepared to fight this creature and its cubs. Even without doing secret missions, the boss fights can be really difficult, which is why it's recommended you drop the difficulty down to easy if you feel like you're having trouble, or use holy bottles to get back to town and come back when you're adequately prepared. After that struggle of a fight, and yes, I did forget to bring Estelle for the second time, we reach a ledge that leads to the ocean. This was one of those trailer moments they used early on in production, and hearing the dialogue, you can see why.
I've seen pictures in books before, but I've never seen it up close like this.
Well, people don't usually travel outside the barriers. If we keep going, we can see all sorts of things, like the jungle or the city of waterfalls.
There are so many more things we could learn, if only our journey would continue.
I guess it's true. I really was living in a small world.
That's a rare moment of sincerity coming from you.
It's your first time seeing it too, right?
Well, yes, but
Aw, you must have had such a lonely life, tied to your research like that.
Having you pity me makes me want to jump off this cliff.
This water has traversed the world's oceans and has seen all there is to see. The ocean binds the lands of our world together.
This moment highlights a part in Estelle's journey where she never knew just how big the world was until now, and even more than ever wants to keep going for as long as possible, despite knowing that at some point the journey will have to end, since she started out trying to save Flynn. It's also a moment for everyone else who had no idea just how large and beautiful the world is, and in a way are glad they came out this way. A small ragtag group to be sure, but they've grown to appreciate each other in some way. It's also at this point I want to bring up just how gorgeous the art design is. Unlike Symphonia and Abyss, whose character models had that standard form of having the faces in texture form, and everything else has like a hand-drawn shade effect to them, here the game uses a type of shading process that allows for like a cel-shaded anime appearance. And I believe the models are made to where the mouths aren't textured and they actually look like they move. And I don't know if this is just because of my computer or any computer regardless of how I captured the footage, but it looks even better on an HD TV. Combine that with a very outstanding soundtrack, this is easily one of the best looking and best sounding Tales games of any generation. This is as close as you will ever get to playing a Tales anime. Now it's around this point you'll start getting titles for your characters. These sort of represent milestones your characters have reached, either from a personal standpoint in the story or just from doing some kind of event. But unlike in Symphonia or Abyss where each title did something, here they don't appear to do anything beneficial. The only titles that actually do anything are the ones that give you costumes. The costumes are often in reference to an event you did in the game, some not so much but may follow a theme, and then the rest are references to other Namco games. Tales ones mostly. Now, according to all the marketing for the definitive edition, all of the previous DLC present in this game, since this was the first game to have online features, would have been available to you as a free download on whatever online store the system you're playing on is related to. However, that's not entirely true, as only one costume didn't make it over, and that's Carol's Sergeant Frog costume. This costume existed because Carol shared the same voice actor as Kuroro in the original anime, and his dialogue here would have changed over to that as well. And even though I believe Namco had the rights to that series, I guess they weren't able to bring it over here. Then maybe besides the pre-order costumes, which are the cameo costumes from Abyss that you still get, but these ones would let your characters have their original hair color. Every costume is still in this game as far as I can tell. Anyway, we arrive in Capua Nor, where we start seeing the corrupted side of the Empire, as the magistrate of this town has high taxes here, has banned boats from traveling, and has apparently taken this family's kid hostage. As Estelle goes to help the two, since the father is injured, Yuri notices the assassins in the alleyway and he goes after them. This of course leads into a fight, one in normal fashion, and one with awesome visuals.
Yuri, are you alright?
Guy Cecil, what are you doing here? So this is Flynn, that one knight from the start of the game, and I'm not kidding when I say he looks like Guy Cecil from Abyss. So they kick ass, and after that, Flynn starts attacking Yuri, even though they still talk somewhat casually, because of course Yuri's bounty went up by another $5,000. The others show up, and Estelle of course hugs him after getting the chance to see him, so they decide to go to the inn to talk. Now this is the part where we really start seeing some of the bigger changes brought on from the original release of the game. It's also where you will know exactly when George Grant takes over Yuri's role, because it features a brand new character. Say hello to Patty.
What the hell is a brat like you doing trying to get in here?
Aw, don't throw a hissy fit. Have a bite of this and calm down.
Get that out of my face. This isn't the kind of place for kids.
Whoa. That sure is a rough way to treat a child.
Patty is a strange child. She seems so oblivious to danger and just walks right into trouble. She might even be an airhead. Her voice is alright, if not a little too high-pitched for my liking. It should be obvious why she was added in, which is exactly why these added scenes exist, so we get more acquainted with her. Fun fact, Patty might have been intended to be around in the original Xbox 360 release, as there was leftover code which made reference to her. There was even a hat in this town too that had part of her name on it. Either way, it sounded like she was planned for a long time, but they didn't have the time for it. Now that that's done, we go back to the inn, where we learn that Estelle has told Flynn everything about their journey so far.
First off, I owe you my thanks for protecting her.
Oh, I've been meaning to express my gratitude as well, Yuri.
It's nothing. I was already out searching for that Blastia thief.
And that's where we have a problem. Regardless of the circumstances, the Imperial law cannot allow the obstruction of officers, jailbreaking, and trespassing. Then I assume you are prepared to receive the punishment your actions deserve.
Flynn!
Our best friend, everybody! Also, they are aware of what's going on in town. More so after we attempt to see Rigaud at his palace and are told to screw off, Yuri decides to go after the monster that Rigaud set loose to get in naturally. Of course, Flynn is worried that Yuri does too much to help, that he might sacrifice his own livelihood to do it. Oh, you have no idea what's coming then. So the monster in question is out in the upper area of the forest, and it turns out the poor creature has been abused so much it has scarring from all the attacks it suffered. Not anyone's fault but Rigaud's for doing this sick act. So you take the horn and let it go. When you get back, we see another side of Yuri's kindness.
This is... Sorry for stealing your thunder back at the inn. Maybe this'll make it up to you.
Thank you so much.
Yuri is all sorts of insane to do all that just to stop the family from being reckless themselves. But now we have to get into the palace the hard way, especially since even with a warrant, Flynn and the Knights aren't allowed in, and there's a chance that Rigaud will use this opportunity to increase his power within the council. Guess it's up to us to break in so they have a reason to investigate freely.
Tough luck. Place is surrounded by a wall, and there's no getting inside unless you can clear it.
Oh hey, it's that guy who claims to know everything. Well, he seems buddy-buddy with us and knows us by name. He introduces himself as Raven and says he can help us get inside. So what does he do? Goes up to the guards and tells them we were trying to sneak in. So he was planning on going in himself and we were the diversion. Rita does not take this well.
No one uses me as a diversion.
He goes up and we go down into a basement that's somewhat like a maze. You need to find certain keys to open doors, but more importantly, we find that one couple's kid. Seriously, what is wrong with this Rigaud guy that he'd leave a small child in a basement of monsters? Well, there he is. Let's hear from him why he's doing this.
So you're Rigaud. You've got some pretty disgusting hobbies.
Hobbies? Oh, you must mean my basement. Only someone with my refined sensibilities could understand the pleasure I derive from such things. You're just like those senile old fools on the council. They bored me to death and never let me enjoy myself. It's the privilege of my exalted station to dispel such boredom with the...
Yes. Abusing your power to raise monsters and torture civilians by hunting one just to tax them further. Clearly we have no understanding of your rather unique tastes. Well, of course, this cage is nothing a little Azure Edge can't break. So we chase after him and run into Patty, who got caught and rolled up in a blanket. Why is she here?
Treasure be worth it, even if it means putting myself in great danger.
What kind of treasure is it?
It's the great treasure that was hidden by Ifried.
Ooh, Ifried's a thing. Ifried is yet another recurring element in these games where he's apparently a famous pirate that we hear stories about but usually never get to see. In this game, he apparently did something terrible, but Patty thinks otherwise.
I'm going to find that legendary treasure and become a famous adventurer.
Even if it means putting yourself in great danger?
That's the life of an adventurer.
Apparently, Rago has a Blastia that controls the weather, hence why it's always raining. Rita tries stopping it just as Flynn arrives, but then...
Whoa! Is that the Dragon Rider?
Damn! I don't know who you are, but that was quite an entrance. Rago makes a break for it and we chase after him onto this ship, where it turns out the people we were fighting all this time were all part of the Blood Alliance, led by the one responsible for stealing Blastia cores, Barbos.
Worm Rago running from a bunch of kids?
One-eyed giant. So you're the one getting people to bring you all these cores?
Maybe I am.
Where'd he pull that out of? His ass?
Wish I had you in my guild.
How flattering.
But it's pushy guys like you I have to watch out for. Upsets the harmony of the guild, see? Nothing personal. Next time we meet, you kids won't be getting off so easy.
Wait! He's still inside! Damn! Soggy, we'll leave the rest to you. Who is it? Who do I get to kill this time?
Oh hey, it's that other guy who attacked us at the start of the game. At least he's easier to handle with a full party, but of course like most bosses, he starts getting more aggressive the more health he loses. Better keep lots of life bottles, which by this point shouldn't be too hard to stock up on. We kick his ass and start escaping the ship, only for Yuri to find someone still on board, and after landing in the water, we see... it's a blonde guy, who Estelle recognizes as Yolder. He was apparently the missing person Flynn was looking for. Once we arrive in Capugatorum, we head to the inn to learn more about why he was here to begin with.
You!
Yes? Have we met somewhere?
Convenient time for amnesia. I know somebody who can fix that for you.
Amnesia? I'm terribly sorry, but this is the first time we've met.
Of course! When you're in a position of power, you can get away with anything, and he knows it. Anyway, Yolder is an heir to the Imperial throne since the last Emperor passed away. Otherwise, Yuri and Flynn give their arguments about the Empire.
And what have you changed by turning your back on such an empire? We need just laws laid down by the government to ensure that people can live lives of stability and peace.
Those same laws just let Rago walk out that door.
Which is why you and I became knights, Yuri, to change things like that. If we couldn't make it happen by yelling about it from below, then we said we'd gain honor and trust and fix the empire from within. Remember?
So, in order to get ahead in life, I'm supposed to stand by while somebody feeds little kids to monsters? Is that it? You want me to look the other way when our people in the lower quarter are being bled dry by taxes? It's because I can't do those things that I quit being a knight.
I know, but has anything changed because you quit?
This is another thing that is brought up a lot and really shows the most out of Yuri and Flynn. Yuri believes that as long as the Empire keeps people like Rago protected, the people will continue to suffer. And while Flynn believes he can change the system from within, this won't change the fact that people will continue to suffer in front of them, and Yuri questions if he's really okay with ignoring the people suffering. You do see where Yuri is coming from, since people like Rago are truly horrible and need to be stopped, but later you see that even Yuri's sense of justice doesn't help in the long run. Hell, Yuri even admits,
I know better than anyone that nothing's changed.
there is some truth to Flynn's reasoning that will be brought up later, but you can't help but sympathize with Yuri's reasoning to seek justice for the less powerful people. The game's characteristic genre, which these games use to relate to their theme, is enforcing one's justice. In which case, nearly every character has some sort of justice they carry out in some way, and we see how they evolve to where they better themselves and help others around them. Many of this can parallel to real-life justices involving vigilantism, what a government should and shouldn't do, and what is really the best way to approach things while learning what consequences your actions bring. Is this justice really for the betterment of everyone, or just for yourself? Yuri finds Raven, who of course brushes off the fact he used them earlier, because he was looking for something called an epithea. Otherwise, he tells him that the Blood Alliance went to a ruined city called Ker Bakram in the northwest area before running away when Rita shows up. When we get there, we finally get to meet this Nan girl that Carol was talking about. She's of course the one we saw at Date and Hold, and they are warding off civilians for whatever job they're doing here. Also, we learn a little bit more about Carol and his reputation.
A little lost? That's a good one. You know you just ran away.
I didn't run away, I swear!
Still making excuses, huh?
It's not an excuse. I beat an egg bear just like I said I would.
More lies.
I mean it!
Is this how you repay being taken in by the hunting blades? Remind me who it was that said, "I swear I won't run away this time." You always run and hide at the first sign of trouble. You've been kicked out of every guild in the book.
Shut up! You shut your mouth!
Huh! Even we've already fired you.
You know, in fairness, we could try saying he did beat an egg bear and a bunch of other strong monsters while he was with us. Not doubting what she's saying, but you guys could say something. Now, even though the hunting blades are here, we still need to confirm if the Blood Alliance is here or not. The city itself is also like a maze, where after turning on this generator, you can use the Warp Blastia to move about to certain areas. We soon see the leader of the hunting blades, Clint, take down one of those wolf monsters we faced before, and does so with one single strike. They call this a fatal strike, which occurs after you offset an enemy's balance, and it pretty much kills them in one hit. So of course, Yuri decides to try it for himself, and here we get a new mechanic. From now on, arts will have one of 3 different strike colors: red, blue, and green. As you attack enemies with your arts, they'll become susceptible to at least one of the colors, and once they lose enough from the bar representing that color, the colored arrow will appear, and if you're free to, you press ZR to attack with a fatal strike. Your AI party members will also attempt to do this, so you don't have to, and each time this happens, your experience in LP will go up, and more items can drop at the end of the battle. Doing this on a boss will not kill them, but it will greatly drop their health down. Throughout the dungeon are hints to opening this vault that's leaking air. You go in and put the password, which is sun, and inside you see that the air is coming from the Blastia above that's broken and leaking air. Not only that, there's a reverse barrier below you that's keeping this humongous monster trapped. Also, somehow the hunting blades got here before us.
Sorry, none of us here are nice enough to take your friendly warning seriously.
You don't say. Well now, if it isn't that runt Carol who got his sorry butt cut from the team.
The air must be affecting him. Looks pretty thick over there. That's just what we want. You all just sit tight and behave yourselves. We're only interested in taking out this big brute.
Yeah, good luck with that. But uh-oh, it's the Dragon Rider again, and they end up breaking the Blastia. This disperses the air, but the barrier is broken. And while the hunting blades deal with the Dragon Rider, the large beast breaks the floor and drops us all down. Thus we begin the boss fight with just Yuri, before eventually everybody but Carol joins in. After all that though, it was looking right at Estelle. What does it mean? The hunting blades retreat and Carol is nowhere to be found, so we go back outside to see him trying to talk to Nan again. Guess even though he's accepted the fact he's been kicked out, that he wants to prove he's changed, despite the fact he might have ran away earlier, but we don't seem too bothered. Since the Blood Alliance isn't here, we make our leave, only to be confronted by Kumor and his men. And of course, he reveals what some of us already knew, in that Estelle is actually a princess. Looks like we might be put to death after this, but LeBlanc and crew arrive to stop that.
Just a minute. This prize catches mine. I won't let you take him from me that easily.
Catch? Our duties are not to be carried out in the fashion of a hunt. Did I not also hear someone mention dying earlier?
You did. What is wrong with condemning criminals to their deaths?
Should not criminals be captured and judged in accordance with the laws?
I suppose I can let you have these little worms.
Of course we still get arrested, but hey, at least we just have to be subjected to a supposedly long questioning in the city of Halure.
Your Excellency, Commandant Alexei, to what do we owe this pleasure?
Alexei? What?
All your crimes are hereby pardoned by the good graces of their highnesses Estelle and Yoder.
Okay, now I can actually talk about Alexei since he's now going to be more prominent. Commandant Alexei, for one thing, is voiced by DC Douglas, who you might recognize as Wesker! And it seems he's here to tell us that our crimes have been pardoned by Estelle and Yoder. He'll have a lot more to do over time, since if he's going to be given the voice of a megalomaniac, then you can expect him to do something crazy later. Also, it sounds like she's planning on returning home, mostly because of what's going on back there. The Knights are in support of Yoder's ascension to the throne, while the Council supports Estelle. And I suppose they aren't to be out and about in public because it would be an issue or something. But before we can check on Estelle, the Tweedledums approach Yuri as they still want a piece of you, giving us yet another new mechanic. Burst Arts. Now, while an overlimit, by holding A after using an arcane art, you'll unleash that character's burst art. There are variants you get later, which are based on the same skills that I've yet to show. Just be careful, you can be interrupted during the art, unless you're in overlimit level 4. The next morning, bad things start to happen due to the Blastia in town overflowing with air. Rita, of course, won't sit by and let this continue since people might be killed if this keeps up.
Damn it! That girl's Blastia crazy!
It's okay. I'll just readjust the volume of air. You'll be just like new.
Okay, I can never get used to Blastia having holograms that function like computers. Estelle goes to help and it seems like Rita succeeds, but then she gets knocked out by an explosion. Naturally, Estelle gets worried, as even after getting them a room, she continues to heal her, not caring for her own well-being.
Are you tired from using your healing arts so much?
I'm jealous of Rita. She has something she cares about so much.
And so can you, if you spend enough time looking for it.
Also, it seems Carol is upset for not being able to do anything, but Yuri assures them it's alright since even adults don't always know what to do. So this helps Carol learn that it's okay to be afraid or helpless at times when you're young. But then he brings up that he wants to start up a guild with Yuri. Yuri will obviously say yes later with how he responds here, but for now they need to check up on the girls since Rita is awake and Estelle exhausted herself to sleep. All this is good development since it shows Rita does care for people, despite how she acts normally, and she's certainly grown attached to Estelle. But now we learn what it was that Yuri and Rita knew about Estelle.
It's alright, I'm fine. Also, you don't need to pretend to be using that Blastia anymore.
What do you mean?
It's pretty cool that you can use healing arts without a Blastia.
That's right, she doesn't need Blastia to work her magic. How and what does this mean? Well, unfortunately, the Dragon Rider shows up and attacks them before we can find out. After that, Yuri decides he'll go to Dahngrest with Carol to learn more about the Blood Alliance. As for Rita and Estelle, well, as Alexei shows up, he tells Rita to investigate Cave Mock because the plants here resembled the plants in the forest when the air went nuts. Estelle volunteers to go with her, and since everyone has to go west anyway, this gives them another reason to travel together. But just to show that Alexei has something in mind, he's sending this one knight that we've seen one other time to watch us as well.
I have a job for you.
So now we arrive at the guild city of Dahngrest. A pretty large and very cool looking city with one long ass chain of some kind. It's here that all the guilds in the land answer to the Union, led by Don Whitehorse of the Master Guild Altosk. Carol thinks to ask him about the Blood Alliance since that guild is part of the Union as well. Though we soon learn that everyone treats Carol like crap because of his cowardly reputation.
These your friends, Carol? You could do a lot better than these losers.
What did you say?
Such undignified men.
Shut up.
Yuri and friends are way nicer to him than he somewhat deserves, but he's trying at least. They hear monsters are attacking the city, but it's okay since the guilds should be able to drive them off so long as the barrier holds. Ooh, crap. Well, time to fight, but there's too many. Who will save us?
Come on, you filthy maggots. I'll take the lot of you. Come see how it feels to get beat down by an old man.
Holy crap, it's David Lodge. Also, Flynn and crew are here. Guess they do have business here, but apparently Don doesn't want his help.
We couldn't live with ourselves if we let the knights do our dirty work. Now get the hell out of here.
Is this really the time for that?
Each and every one of these people left the empire of their own free will and joined a guild. There ain't a soul in this town so spineless they go running to you guys for help. These are the rules of the life we've chosen. It's up to us to make sure those rules don't get broken.
Why does this game have so many cool people in it? Everyone's either a badass, a cynic, or a snark. Rita tells us we need to fix the barrier blastia to stop the monsters from entering the city, and it seems the assassins were responsible for messing with the blastia. We beat them up, Rita does her thing, and Flynn arrives to say they'll fight the monsters outside of town so not to upset the Don. Who, by the way, supposedly went to find the monster nest all the monsters were coming from. With no other leads, we decide to go to Cave Mock to investigate what Alexei wanted. And guess who shows up?
Hey, what a coincidence!
Yep, he's back. And this time he wants to come along with you since you're here and all. As a party member, he's a mixed attacker, having mostly range, strike, and magic arts, though can get up close with his blades. He's sort of like Woodrow from Destiny in that regard. Also, watch how smooth he is when saving Patty from this bug creature.
He hit it! Nice catch!
And see Yuri be kind of an asshole. So like before, she believes there was treasure here and that she was playing with the monster. Though we know she'll be fine on her own. Because she's packing heat! We soon find the source of the abnormal air, where we get attacked by a giant scorpion-like monster. But with it down comes more of them. End of the line? Hardly. We get saved by the mystery man and his amazing sword.
Who is he?
Duke.
Ah yes, Duke. A man with strange ties to nature and a disinterest in humans. He only tells us that this is an air crane, where air radiates from, and apparently his sword can cut it. He warns us not to approach them anymore and leaves. Guess we leave too, and soon a stampede of monsters come through. All because Don and his men were...
Those savage monsters turned docile as pups and ran off. What did you do?
Jamieson Price? When did you get here? Oh wait, you were Duke earlier. But now you're the Don? What? Yeah, they couldn't get David Lodge to reprise Don Whitehorse. And while Grant George does get better with Yuri over time to where it becomes less noticeable a difference, with the Dahn it's highly noticeable to the point where it's distracting during scenes where new dialogue is added. In this case, because it's the re-release of the game, we actually get to fight Don Whitehorse, which was not a thing in the original. What basically happens, no matter what version it is we learn that Raven is a member of Altask, like the Dahn. Something about another guildmaster that Dahn is friends with, Carol learning about how it's not about fame or whatever when helping people, and of course, the Dahn is willing to listen to us once we get back to the city. When we do, we see that Flynn is after Barbos as well. Since he's causing trouble with everyone, Flynn is wishing to work with the guilds to hopefully stop him. Dahn seems to agree with him, and it's looking like the guilds and the Empire will be working together on something. Until...
If Don Whitehorse is taken out of the picture, we are willing to overlook the Union's responsibility in the Barbos affair.
What?
Don't make me laugh.
What? What is this?
Looks like you and the young master see things a bit differently.
There must be some mistake. Master Yoder would never say such a thing.
So now Flynn will be imprisoned, and the Dahn is set for war with the Empire. Yuri and friends aren't sure what to do, though Yuri decides to check on Flynn since the guard left his post. And Flynn is taking it well, actually.
That was the Red Eyes doing. They attacked after you left.
You don't screw up like that. Was it one of your people?
Even if it was, the responsibility is mine.
You know what they're trying to do?
Most likely they want to force a clash between the guilds and the knights.
So of course, Yuri decides to take Flynn's place in prison while he goes off to get the real letters back. Even if it means dying later. Sometime later though, the Dahn shows up to reveal that he actually knew that Flynn was being set up. But he chose to do this anyway in order to ensure the ones pulling the strings would show themselves, since they'll want to see the two sides fight. Plus a bit of pride that he needs to act tough in front of everyone so it's not like he's going soft on someone like Flynn. You know how it goes.
Tell me one thing though. What made you want to start a guild in the first place?
I realized I couldn't protect the things that were important to me playing by the Empire's rules.
There have to be some things that were easier to protect when you were on the other side, though. Even in the lower quarter where I'm from, we still had the barrier to protect us.
Sure. But were you happy with just putting up with all the things you didn't like?
Well,
So if the rules the Empire sets don't suit you, you got two choices. You can do like your friend is and put everything you've got into changing the system. Or you can turn your back on the Empire and live by the rules you set for yourself.
This almost relates to what I'll be bringing up near the end of the video. But for now, he tells Yuri he can go look for the ones responsible for all this, since they'd have to be in town still and hopefully be done in time before the conflict begins. We reunite with everyone, Raven returns, saying the Dahn sent him to help. And what ends up happening is Raven leads them to a secret passageway into the old sewer network that will take us to that building the enemy is in. Naturally, the sewers are dark, so we have to rely on a Blastia that emits light. But we have to recharge the air within it with these machines. Otherwise, the monsters will start coming toward you when the light is dim. Halfway through, we find some old writing on the wall.
Long ago, our ancestors abandoned their nations for forgetting their duty to protect their people, and thus became the true defenders of freedom. That is how the guilds first began. But now, the iron shackles of oppression threaten to strangle us once again. It is because we have forgotten the oath of our ancestors and spent our time fighting one another for our own self-interests. Therefore, we must once again return to the basic principles behind the guilds and join our strengths together as one. We offer our swords for freedom, our shields for friendship, and our lives for the common good. Here we renew our ancient oath.
You know, we're only 1/3 of the way into this game, and already I feel like this is an infinitely better crafted world than Final Fantasy XV. Not only have we been getting good character development for everybody, but we get a lot of good world building. World building that also has ties to the main characters, since spoilers, Yuri and Carol do make that guild, and for one of them, it's because of the change they want to make for the world, given how bad the Empire is with their ways of thinking. You'd have to dig that up in most archives or random articles in FF15, sure, but sometimes it's just nice when the characters deliver it to you. We reach the end and make our way upstairs, where Barbos and Rago are arguing about how the former was building a tower without the latter's knowledge.
Thanks to my efforts that you were able to make that weather-controlling Blastia.
And just what made you think it was okay to carry off the extra cores?
Our mutual non-interference was a condition of our agreement, was it not?
What?
And did I ever interfere with what you were doing?
Barbos, how dare you!
You will leave now, Magistrate.
Remember this, Barbos. Black-hearted filth like you always get what they deserve in the end.
Pot me kettle? Yuri and the others arrive, but it seems to be too late since the knights and guilds are about to clash. Or is it?
Flynn!
Stop! All of you! Sheath your blades! Sheath them! I am Flynn Shifo of the Imperial Knights. I have come bearing a letter from Master Yoder. The letter you received from the Empire was false. It was the work of a rebel. Draw back your armies at once!
I thought you weren't coming back.
And leave Yuri behind to take the fall for me? I wouldn't dream of it.
Best friend ever. Barbos tries to stop him, but we interfere, so he aims his gun at us. However, the Dragon Rider returns yet again to stop him, so he decides to retreat by flying with his Blastia sword. Despite Rita wanting to attack the rider, Yuri asks them for a ride to the place Barbos left for, and they seem to understand your request since they let you aboard. The others have to stay behind, but now we get a brief scene of the dragon blasting away at the Blastia controlling the wind around the tower. And then we land on top of what's called Gosfarost. Barbos sends his men after us, but we kick their ass. However, the Dragon Rider gets knocked out of the air by him, forcing the dragon to flee while we get imprisoned. I don't know why he doesn't just kill us, given what we did, but hey, at least we get to learn who the rider is.
A woman? Are you all right? Sorry.
Well, after all, you did help Baul back there.
Yuri Lowell.
Judith.
You'll be the fan service character of this game. You'll see why later. So yeah, Judith. In the original, she would have been the final party member, but obviously that's changed. Still, she's pretty cool for a Critian, who are kinda like the elves of this game. She doesn't reveal much as to why she's destroying Blastia outside of she wants to, but otherwise she seems quick to adapt like Yuri when deciding to figure a way out of here. She's probably one of my other favorite characters outside of Yuri and Rita. For now, she accompanies us in needing to go up and destroy the Blastia, and after getting our equipment back, we see that she's like an aerial fighter. Some of her arts work best in the air, and if you can figure out how to manage her strike arts and combos, you'll find her to be a bit faster than even Repeat and Yuri in terms of comboing. We end up outside where our friends are shown to have arrived because they weren't going to leave us behind. Even Estelle is here helping. And so is Flynn! Apparently. In the original, Flynn would have still been in Dahngrest, but he's here now and will also become a party member. In the original game, there was only one instance where Flynn was made playable, for one battle during the third act of the game. But with the re-release, he's fully playable, and while somewhat modeled after Estelle in terms of gear and class, he has mostly strike arts, and is somewhat close to an old-school swordsman character like Kless or Stan than even Yuri. In this version, he comes in and out of the group, but doesn't stay completely till near the end of the game. Moving on, the tower itself operates on these gears that were apparently added on top of a foundation that existed long ago. I guess Rago's funds helped Barbos in that regard, but otherwise we have to shoot them with the Sorcerer's Ring, which gets upgraded in this dungeon with more air. allowing us further access to the top. When we get there, we confront Barbos, whose sword does have the Plastia core we were after this whole time. Funny how that one core worked for them, and it certainly seems powerful. Might make for a tough battle?
Get down.
What?
Nope! Duke just up and destroyed that blade, save for the core, meaning he has to use his crappy pirate blade like normal. This fight is still hard, and that's with me even grinding a bunch, since you have enemies spawning from these platforms that you can stop by attacking the controls, but even then, Barbos hits hard and has loads of AoE arts. That's also why you stock up on life bottles, I guess. After we win, we see just how much pride Barbos has in not wanting to get captured.
I won't be humiliated any more than this. Yuri, was it? You remind me of Whitehorse in his youth.
Hope you're not saying I'm gonna end up like that old man. Not exactly something to look forward to.
Like the Dawn. Sooner or later, you will make great enemies in this world, and then that world will consume you whole. Regret, sorrow, and despair will hound you all the way to hell. And I will be waiting there for you.
Considering what's about to happen, he isn't too far off. Raven and Judith end up leaving, and no, Rita does not know the truth about her. In fact, Yuri pretty much told Judith to keep this a secret between them, given Rita's attitude. And Flynn goes on ahead back to the city. Not sure why we don't just stay together, but I guess it's anything to transition back to how it would be in the original, where Flynn is there to apprehend Rigaud, who is trying to feign innocence.
How? I thought that cursed Alexei was tied up in other matters.
Yes, it is true that our Commandant could only make a brief appearance before returning to the capital.
Then, on whose authority? No! This can't mean my plans have been ruined by this boy!
You would think that's the end of Rigaud, but nope. Despite it sounding like they'll ensure his punishment, it seems he used his power to get away with most of the charges and will only drop down a rank.
So this is how the Empire works now, huh? Damn it, this is not funny.
What do we do, Yuri?
I don't know.
How can he not get punished? Wait, if we tell Estelle, maybe she can do something about it.
Hey, don't go giving the princess too much trouble.
I'm sure you know what this is going to lead into, but first we need to talk with Flynn about this. We go to his post and see that he's been promoted to captain and is given fancier armor to wear. And indeed, he even knows about Rigaud, but here's where he admits the flaw with his approach to things.
That he should be able to do those things and not have to answer for them. The authority of the Council is far more powerful than I'd imagined. I thought with this promotion to captain that I'd gotten a bit closer to my goal. But I have to face the fact that the law can't even punish a single person like Rigaud.
You know it doesn't end here. You'll climb even higher until you can make the right changes.
True. But many people will continue to suffer in the meantime, needlessly. When I consider that,
Don't go flying off the handle and smacking him around. The progress you made would all be for nothing. If he's above you, you go even higher, and then...
Yes. Someday I'll create a legal order that treats everyone with equality. I have to.
Good. And I'll do things my own way.
So basically, despite knowing what Yuri is about to do, Yuri still believes that people like Flynn can make changes to an otherwise corrupt system without having to stoop to the things that are arguably as bad as certain evil actions. For while Flynn's methods are slow, he does feel like all he'll be doing is watching people suffer while playing by the rules. Should he have to bend them slightly to avoid that, or push on through at the cost of people's lives? Well, Yuri seems to think he should keep at it the way he's been doing it, since he's made it this far, especially since Yuri is going to be doing things his own way, which will lead to bad things happening that we'll talk about next time. But it's not something for Flynn to dirty himself with. He's not that kind of person that should be doing what Yuri does. Just where is it I'm going with this? Well, I did say that Yuri is like a vigilante, so...
Do you intend to harm me? I'm a member of the council, you know. I could crush you with a single command. You won't get away with this.
The laws and the council may have let you go, but I'm afraid I can't do that.
Ah, stay back! Oh, I was so close. De nomos.
Repeat.
侵略開始であります。ゲロリゲロゲロリガリオーバー防御ゲロガリオーバーゲロリゲロガリオーバーゲロリゲロガリオーバー